It's been nearly 2.5 years since I have started creating this YouTube channel for all of you in terms of getting your HCPC registration, getting a job as a healthcare professional in the UK, and clearing those interviews. However, one of the most frequently asked questions still stands around IELTS and HCPC registration. Now, if you are somebody who is planning to come to the UK, you would know that as an allied health professional, which might include any of these 14 registration or occupations, you would need your HCPC registration to start working as a healthcare professional in the UK. And one of the most crucial requirements is to prove your ability to speak English through the English language requirements. Now, around this topic, there are so many discrepancies in terms of which IELTS should be used. Do we need to prove our English language requirements if we are from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh? Can a medium of instruction language or letter be used instead? And today's video is going to give you clarity, and also I'm going to share some really important updates that have been there on the HCPC website if you are interested. So do not leave this video and go away, because this information is going to be life-changing, especially if you are considering to be a healthcare professional and come to the UK in 2024 or 2025. But before we move ahead, let me introduce myself. So my name is Nikita and I make videos about living in the UK, getting your HCPC registration, landing those jobs, clearing those interviews, and thriving as a healthcare professional. I myself am a physiotherapist in the UK, and so I think I am in a good position to help you out. However, what you need to remember throughout this video is that I am no spokesperson for HCPC, and neither am I an HCPC assessor. Whatever information I will be sharing in this video is coming truly from the HCPC website. I'll leave the links for it. I'll put up screenshots during the video. So feel free to go and check them out and do your own research. But let's dive into the first question. So first things first, do you need to prove that you speak English on a day-to-day basis, and how should you be doing that if you are applying from any of the countries other than UK? So we're just going to pull up the HCPC's website right here, and as you can see on the official HCPC website, it says that you must declare whether English is your first language or not. You should only indicate English is your first language if it is the main or the only language you use on a day-to-day basis. Now it goes on to say, and this is the most crucial point here, is having studied English or undertaken education or training in an institution where the medium of instruction is English does not necessarily mean that English is your first language. If English is not your first language, then you must provide proof of your English language proficiency. Now, this again just goes out to be as a bit of a cautionary warning to everybody who's watching this video from Philippines, India, Pakistan, any other Asian country, Nigeria, or any other African country, or Turkey. Just be aware that if you've studied in English, you've done your bachelor's in English, it does not count as English being your first language. So according to the HCPC, even if you have studied in English, you're still going to have to prove that you can speak English to the required standards, and you need to submit an English language proficiency test. That sort of links in really nicely with the idea or that question which comes up ever so often, where you ask me saying, Nikita, can I use my medium of instruction letter from my university or college for my HCPC registration? Because it says very clearly that my bachelor's or my master's was done in English. And if you've just looked at these screenshots, it says that you can't. Now, I know several of you are going to jump at me in the comments saying, Nikita, but I know of this friend who's actually gone ahead and got her HCPC registration without IELTS, just with their medium of instruction letter. And I would say these are the official HCPC recommendations. Obviously, you are free to follow them or no, but I'm just going to share my personal experience and one of the worst scenarios that have come through me via my Instagram DMs, where this young lady was contacted by HCPC as she has obviously submitted a medium of instruction letter from her university saying she had completed the degree in English from India. And what tended to happen is HCPC then reminded her that English is not the first language for her country, which is India, And so she was asked to submit her English language proficiency test, which was IELTS. Now, as many of you all know, if HCPC has contacted you for further information request, you have only up to 28 days to provide that. And so this young lady was stressed because she needed to meet the requirements for the IELTS, because you just cannot submit an IELTS score. You require it to be of a certain level and you need to prepare for it, and she only had 28 days to do that. Now, the second shortcoming of this situation is obviously that because you've submitted your application and HCPC has reviewed it and requested for further information, once they do that, they put your application right lower down until you've submitted all of the essential requirements. And then the process of HCPC that usually takes up to 2 to 6 months can take even longer, because once they've got all of your additional information, they need to again review your application before they reach a decision. So obviously, two things for you to remember if you are submitting your medium of instruction letter. Firstly, it is not in line with the HCPC recommendations, especially if you are from a country where English is not the first language. Studying in English does not mean that English is your first language. And B, you might be at the risk of delaying your entire HCPC process if you have tried to do exactly what I've spoken about and you have been caught by HCPC. So now coming down to question number 2, which is what are the English language tests that can be used in order to prove your English language requirements for HCPC. So as you can see on your screens right there, we've just scrolling down a little bit on the page, and it says right here that you need to use either your IELTS language test, which has a total score of 7 with no element below 6.5. So that just means that it's fine for reading, writing, speaking, or listening to have 6.5 or 7, but no element less than that. So none of these 4 elements need to be less than 6.5, and you need to have an overall score of 7. Now again, many of you all come back to me saying, Nikita, my language scores, maybe say my listening score is 5.5 or 6. Can I submit it? The answer is no, because as you can see, it's very strictly said that you need a minimum score of at least 6.5 in each of the elements, that is reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So please make sure that all of your test scores are at least at this level before you submit the application. Another recommendation right there is that you can even use TOEFL, which is the internet-based test, and the minimum score needs to be 100 out of 120. Now this is again very interesting, because like I said, you can only use your IELTS or your TOEFL. So any of these 2 scores can be used, but remember there are some minimum score requirements that you do need to fulfill before you make the application. Another important information for you to remember is that speech and language therapists have slightly higher requirements. So if you are a speech and language therapist, you need to have all of your elements at 7.5 with no element less than that, and you need to have an overall score of 8 in your IELTS. And again, if you are submitting your TOEFL, you need a score of 118 out of 120. Which is really high. So you better start working on those skills. Now again, if you are somebody who is trying to prepare for IELTS and TOEFL but don't know where to start, don't know what resources to use, I've made a very detailed few reels on my Instagram account about this topic. So please go ahead, check out that account, follow it, because I put out a lot of information for you out there, and there's some really good resources that I personally used in order to get a band 8 in my IELTS exams previously. Now, another really crucial topic that comes in here, which ties into the third question that I get asked really frequently is, Nikita, which IELTS exams can I be using for my HCPC registration? And HCPC has actually gone ahead and clarified it, saying that they accept both the IELTS academic and the IELTS general test. They also accept both the UKVI and the non-UKVI versions of the test. However, the test needs to be taken at an official test center and not at home. We also do not accept any TOEFL test scores undertaken in the United Kingdom. So these are the 2 cautionary messages for you to remember. Now again, just to bring that into a bit more perspective, if you are somebody who wants to get a work visa in the UK, what is most likely going to happen is I would recommend using the UKVI General or Academic IELTS. Simply the reason being, you can obviously use the test scores for HCPC, but when you come to your work visa application, you can again just use your UKVI IELTS for your work visa application. So it's just killing two birds with the same stone. So that's what I would recommend. However, if you are a student coming to the UK for your master's degree and then want to land a job as a physio or as an OT and get your HCPC registration, I would recommend definitely going in for your academic IELTS and then just using it for your HCPC registration, because again, that's killing two birds with the same stone. And hopefully, because your student visa would have been done with your IELTS scores right now, you can hopefully use the same scores for your work visa. If you have any doubts about this, let me know in the comments below and I'll try to make a video about my personal experience related to it. But yeah, I hope that clarified the idea of which test you should be using and what are the recommendations around it. Another important key recommendation just around that topic is any test certificate submitted should be no more than 2 years old when we receive your application. Now, it falls in line very nicely with the IELTS test because that is valid for exactly 2 years from your official test date. Another big question that is asked quite commonly is, Nikita, which English language test do we need for our work? So in order to work in the NHS, what English language test do I need to use? Now, I'm going to be honest, in the last few jobs that I've seen or even that I've heard from friends, none of them have been asked for their English language test during their pre-employment checks. Now, again, if you are confused about what are pre-employment checks or how to even land those roles, then do not be stressed because you can book a one-to-one session with me through my website where I can review your application, check your supporting information, give you useful tips and advice around it. Or if you are struggling with those interviews, I can also help you with that. So don't forget to book a one-to-one session with me and I'll leave the link for that website in the description below again. But again, if you are struggling, remember that your IELTS or your TOEFL can rarely be asked in your pre-employment check. So it's not a requirement for you to get the job. However, that being said, I have seen personally in my previous workplace that they did ask me for my IELTS test results before they offered me the employment contract or the official letter stating that, I have been recruited for that role. So it can be a factor to be considered with some NHS trust. However, majority of them do not ask you for your IELTS. I hope that makes it clear and brings down that worry a little bit. That being said though, you might need your IELTS for your work visa. And like I said, the easiest way to tackle that is by giving your UKVI IELTS right now while you're preparing for HCPC, because A, you can then use it for your HCPC application, but B, you can also use it for your work visa application. So it works out in your favor. Now, I hope this video made a lot of sense, and if it left any further questions in your mind, do not forget to leave them down in the comment section below, but also give this video a massive thumbs up because I personally think that this video needs to reach as many people as possible, and your likes and subscribes are going to help that. Take care, guys. Bye.